Oh, hey! You know, I was just sitting here enjoying my time off looking at a really nice pair of tits. You wanna see? Check it out, those have to be the best pair of tits I've ever seen. Now let's look at some boobies. Aww, those are some nice boobies. You know, I guess the point I'm trying to get across here is that I'm enjoying something that's not video games. I mean, Enter the Dragonfly drained me of any energy that I had. Now let's look at some breasts. Oh, Jesus! No, I wasn't looking at anything. No.
Hey, fuck shit. I got a big old box of shitty games here for you to review. Enjoy, bitch! And also, are you the dick that shit on my face?
No.
Alright, just checking. When I find out who that shit stain is, there's gonna be hell!
I guess that it's impossible for me to get a break. Just when I think I found some luck, boom, there's some horrible game for me to talk about. Crash Bandicoot? But that's not a shitty game!
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't!
Yes, it is.
Well, if you read the title of the video and even watched the beginning, then you'll know that today I'm talking about the very first Crash Bandicoot. And with Sony's announcement of Crash being remastered for the PS4, I figured that there was no better time to do so. They also announced Crash being in Skylanders, and to that I respond with, I might actually buy and play a Skylanders game for once. And with all that out of the way, let's stop rambling and jump into some Crash fucking Bandicoot. If you've ever played the Crash Bandicoot games that don't suck, then you'd know that they're pretty badass. Let's be real here. It's an orange marsupial constantly outsmarting a genius scientist and then kicking his ass. There's no other game series like that. Now we all know that Crash Bandicoot was created by Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin, the founders of Naughty Dog, and we all know that it was a huge stepping stone in 3D platforming, so I'm not going to go over any of that in great detail. That means I'm not going to talk about it anymore. At all. The plot of Crash Bandicoot is easy to follow. Like, stupid easy. In fact, you can play through the game without even knowing it, because the only way that you would even find out about it is by sitting idle on the title screen for 20 seconds. But like I said before, the plot is so simple that even Donald Trump can understand it. It centers around the evil Dr. Neo Cortex and his lab partner Nitrous Brio, as they attempt to turn a simple-minded Bandicoot, who happens to be Crash, into a super soldier. Somehow these two guys absolutely fuck up, and Crash becomes a complete airhead, leading to him jumping out of one of the windows. But that's not all, since now he has to save his girlfriend, Tana, from Cortex before he turns her into a super soldier? Fuck if I know, the game doesn't tell you anything. Okay, so the story itself isn't very good. But then again, what kind of douchebag plays games for the story? So at this point, you're probably wondering why I think this game, along with its sequels that don't suck, are badass. To answer the question, it's because of the gameplay. Crash Bandicoot was created in a pretty weird time, when 2D games were on their way out and 3D games were becoming more prominent in the gaming industry. Crash Bandicoot is the perfect example of this, since not only are there levels where you travel forwards and backwards, but also side to side. Nowadays that's nothing special, but back in 1996 it was groundbreaking. But hey, I still think it's pretty cool even now, since it adds a variety of gameplay that you don't get to see a lot nowadays, and provides a perfect contrast to the constant repetition of gameplay that sadly plagues most modern games. But hey, that's just my opinion. The main factor of gameplay here is to get from point A to point B, disposing of enemies with Crash's trusty spin attack, and also smashing every crate within the levels. It sounds pretty simple, but in reality turns out to be the ultimate ballbuster. Herein lies the problem with Crash Bandicoot's crate smashing objective. In order for the game to even consider tallying up the number of crates that you've destroyed, you have to clear the level without dying even once. This objective would have been made a lot easier if you weren't dealing with the PlayStation controller's D-pad. You see, Crash was created in 1996, and the PlayStation's DualShock analog controller wasn't supported until early 1998. So because of this, the only way that you can even control Crash is by this shit. Surprisingly enough though, the game's controls are responsive, meaning that Crash moves only when I want him to. But when it comes to things like precision platforming, the figurative shit hits the figurative fan. Every jump is a leap of faith, and whenever I had one jump left before reaching the end of a level without any deaths, I had a mini heart attack, which isn't a good thing since I'm only 17. This leads to the game being very unforgiving, and can even result in this. but other than pants-shittingly scary platforming, it's a good time. There's a plethora of crates within the levels, such as plane crates, question mark crates straight out of Super Mario, Aku Aku crates, TNT crates which explode after 3 seconds of being jumped on, checkpoint crates, and even crates which rocket crash up into the air. You'll even find different things inside of different crates, one of which being the Aku Aku crate which houses the Aku Aku mask, Crash's life bar. You can collect up to 3 of these, the first 2 supplying you with additional hit points and the third providing Crash with a couple seconds of invincibility. But the main thing held by boxes are Wumpa Fruit. Collecting 100 of these gives you an extra life, so to every Nintendo fan, they're basically Mario's gold coins, but cooler. And in some boxes you can even find heads. Alright, so I'm joking. You don't find heads, but instead you find mugshots. The first and most common being Crash's, which functions as a 1-up. The second mugshot that you can find is Tana's. Collecting 3 of these takes you to a bonus round where you can collect more lives and even Wumpa Fruits. But more importantly, you can save your game. The only issue is, this is the only way to save your progress without breaking all the boxes and collecting a gem at the end of the level. If that doesn't sound like a problem, then I don't know what is. Oh, and you can also save your progress with passwords. But seriously, passwords? This is the fucking PlayStation. I don't need any damn passwords. The last 2 mugshots that you can find are that of Dr. Embryo's and Dr. Cortex's. Collecting 3 of Brio's mugshots takes you to a bonus round where you blow shit up and collect extra lives. In layman's terms, it's pointless. On the other hand, collecting 3 of Cortex's mugshots takes you to another bonus level where you have to avoid being blown up by TNT crates and at the end receive a key. These are actually pretty important since there's only 2 of these keys in the entire game and they're essential for 100% completion. But what I don't understand is that some of the crates are hidden in areas that you need a game guide to figure out, like here in the level Fumbling in the Dark. Who would have guessed to go back there? However, each level has a different theme, like straightaway levels, vertical progression levels, and even old school platforming levels. But then there's levels where Crash is running towards the camera away from a boulder, and there's even levels where he rides on the back of a wild hog, which is just a vehicle section where you go left or right and attempt to avoid any hazards blocking your way. These levels are actually great fun, and the only complaint that I have is that I wish I could control the pig's speed with the circle or square button like in Crash 2. But sadly, not every level is perfect. The most prominent issue that I found within the levels is that some of them drawn on for far too long. Take Sunset Vista for instance. That shit took me almost 10 minutes to beat, as well as being one of the most difficult levels in the game. Other than that though, things are fine. You know what else are fine? The bosses. Each of them are unique in their own way, have tons of charm, and above all else, feel like bosses. Sure, Crash doesn't meet any of them until actually fighting them, and they aren't very difficult, but that's not the point. At least they actually feel like bosses with patterns that need to be learned, except for Papu Papu, because seriously, fuck him. But then there's bosses like Pinstripe, who are actually pretty memorable and even fun. Another thing that I have to praise is the music. Sure, it's not as memorable as, say, any of the Spyro games or even its own sequels, but it's definitely identifiable. Even tracks like Embryo's boss fight and Heavy Machinery are awesome. The game itself ends with Crash finally meeting up with Cortex and the two duking it out on top of a blimp while Cortex's castle burns in the distance. That is fucking awesome. It's a relatively simple boss fight, but it's such a satisfying feeling when you land the killing blow on Cortex. After that, the game ends with Crash and Tana reunited flying off into the distance. There's also a completionist ending with Crash and Tana riding on this big-ass bird, as well as showing what happens to the bosses. So that's pretty cool. But you know what? Now that I think back on it, Crash Bandicoot is a pretty flawed game. There's problems up the wazoo, most of which can be credited to the fucking D-pad and even difficulty spikes. But by far, the best thing that Crash Bandicoot has going for it is that good old PlayStation charm. Just small details like the set pieces or locales is amazing. And on levels like Sunset Vista or even the High Road, the feeling of seeing Cortex's castle looming in the distance is something that I haven't felt in games for a while. It's the feeling of progression, the feeling of all your hard work paying off, clearing every level, smashing every crate, collecting every key and gem, and knowing that you're making progress is such an amazing feeling. Maybe I'm reading too deeply into things, but that alone is my favorite part of Crash Bandicoot and helps me to look past whatever flaws this game has. Sure, it's not the best in the series, but this humble little game started it all. And even now in 2016, we can owe Crash's success to the small title released on Sony's first console. And now that I've made the video all mushy and heartfelt, there's only one question that needs to be answered. Is Crash Bandicoot a good game? Well, yeah, it is. Is it a good game by today's standards? Sadly, no. But hey, there's a remaster coming around soon, and I'm hoping that that can fix whatever flaws this game has, because then it would be the quintessential Crash Bandicoot experience. And right now, I even feel like playing Crash 2. I wonder what else is in that box. I honestly don't know what I expected. Want to keep up with everything that I'm up to? Probably not, but for those of you who do, head over to twitter.com/CalWon'tShutUp and click follow.